So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spike Knight, and in these podcasts, I like talking all things movies, TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing Borderlands. So, let's get into it, shall we? Borderlands is directed, or quote-unquote directed by Eli Roth, who is best known for directing such movies as The House with a Clock in Its Wall, Thanksgiving, which came out last year, but I didn't see that, I didn't get around to seeing it. I wanted to, but I didn't get around to seeing it. Knock Knock, Hostel, and Green Inferno. And I should say, I haven't seen any of those movies, but I have heard a couple of interviews between Eli Roth and Quentin Tarantino when they're interviewing each other and talking about film, and Eli Roth sounds very passionate about film, about cinema, and about filmmaking. So you'd think his movies would be quite good, but a lot of them aren't critically well received. Again, I haven't seen any of them, so I can't really speak on them. Well, I've seen this one, so I can speak on this one, and I will do very shortly. But you'd think Eli Roth would have a more well-received, not more critically well-received filmography. But he speaks very passionately about film, and he seems to love cinema, is the point I'm making. But the reason I did quote-unquote when I said that Eli Roth directed this movie is because apparently he didn't direct a ton of it. Let's just say that. Because the movie was completely shot 3 years ago. It was completely shot in 2021. But it was in the can for about 2 years until Tim Miller, who is best known for directing the first Deadpool movie and the latest Terminator film, Terminator Dark Fate, he came on to do extensive reshoots on this movie, according to IndieWire. So, although the film is credited as saying it's directed by Eli Roth, it sounds more like it was a Rogue One situation, like if you don't know about Rogue One already. Basically, Gareth Edwards, his name, is credited as a director of the film, but actually Tony Gilroy came in and did extensive reshoots on Rogue One, and it sounds like a similar sort of situation happened here. And I should also say that I've never played any Borderlands game. Quite frankly, I've never really heard of the Borderlands games. I've heard of them a little bit here and there, but I've never seen any gameplay from them, and I've never seen anybody rave about them either. Usually when a video game adaptation happens, it's because not just me, it's because usually everybody's raving about it. Everybody's raving about that game and they want to see it transformed into a TV series or into a movie. Look what happened with the Super Mario Brothers film. Look how many people went to go and see that. Look how many Emmys The Last of Us won and was nominated for, because people wanted to see that, adapted into a TV show. Look at how popular the Sonic movies are. Look at how popular I don't know how popular it was actually, but look how many people were excited to see the Halo TV show, and look how many people wanted to go and see Five Nights at Freddy's. That movie made something like $500 million at the global box office. The point I'm making is people were still interested in seeing these games being adapted, but I haven't heard, and this may just be me, maybe I'm just living under a rock, but I haven't heard many people wanting to see a Borderlands game adaptation. Before they came out, I had heard people saying, when are we going to get a Super Mario Bros. Movie? When are we going to get a Halo movie or a Halo TV show? When are we going to get a Last of Us TV show? When are we going to get all these popular and beloved video games adapted? But I hadn't heard that with Borderlands, to the point I'm making. But, as I was saying before, I've never played a Borderlands game, and I barely know anything about the Borderlands games as a whole. So, take my opinion with a grain of salt. Take my opinion on this movie as someone who's never, ever touched or even looked at any Borderlands gameplay footage. However, I was interested, I wouldn't say I was excited, not at all, I wasn't excited, not one bit, but I was interested, can't even speak today, can I? I was interested in seeing this film because of the cast that was assembled for this movie. I mean, you look at the cast, you got 2 Oscar winners. Granted, one of them wasn't an Oscar winner when they signed on to do this movie, and I bet she would have signed on to do it if after she won an Oscar, but at the same time, Cate Blanchett is a double Academy Award winner, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken, do correct me if I'm wrong, but Cate Blanchett is an Academy Award winning actress, and usually when she signs onto a project, it's because you think there's going to be a certain type of quality attached to that project. Not always. Lest we forget, she was the villain in the fourth Indiana Jones film, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and look how that film turned out. But usually when she signs onto a project, you think there's something there. In the trailers, although I didn't think the trailers of the film looked great, she looked like she was having a lot of fun in the role, and I like when Cate Blanchett takes on more fun roles. I think she's a very, very good series actress. I might not have liked her, but I thought she was very good in it. Still, I prefer seeing her in more fun and enjoyable movies to watch, like, say, the Lord of the Rings films. And even so, as I already mentioned, I'm not a big fan of the fourth Indiana Jones movie. I do think she's good in it. So I enjoy seeing her in fun roles, and I thought this would be I thought I would have enjoyed myself watching her in this movie. And the other Academy Award winning actress that is in this film is Jamie Lee Curtis, who has now won an Academy Award for her performance in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which is something to say, by the way, because if you've seen that movie and you've seen a performance in it, it's not really Oscar-worthy, I would say, but I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm not a dishonour whatsoever, and I'm very glad she has won an Academy Award. And with Jamie Lee Curtis and Cate Blanchett attached to this movie, you'd think there'd be a certain quality that comes with it, a certain quality that comes with perhaps the script or the direction. You'd think there was something there. And also, Kevin Hart, I'm not the biggest fan of Kevin Hart, I'm not gonna lie. Often I've seen him in movies and I don't really find him that funny. I didn't find him funny in Central Intelligence, and I can't think of any other Kevin Hart films I've seen. Even so, I know I have seen other Kevin Hart films, I just can't think of them because I found them so forgettable. So you get the point I'm making. I'm not really a fan of Kevin Hart, but at the same time, you've got Jack Black, who's one of my favourite actors, voicing this robot in the movie. You've got Ariana Greenblatt, who seems to be having this meteoric rise with her roles. I mean, they've only been mostly small roles, but her role in Barbie was quite big, actually. And her role in Avengers Infinity War, although she wasn't on screen much, she played a very important part in that movie. And also her role as the young Ahsoka in the Ahsoka's TV show. She's been in Marvel, she's been in Star Wars, and she was in the biggest movie of 2023. Was that when Barbie came out? Did Barbie come out last year? It feels like it came out much longer ago. But anyway, Ariana Greenblatt, who seems to be having this meteoric rise, is also in this film. I thought with that cast, there's gotta be something there. And although, as I already mentioned, I didn't really think the trailers of the film were great, they looked like they could be. They looked like the film. They looked like they made the film. This is what I'm trying to say. They made the film look like it was going to be a fun sort of Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I didn't want it just to be a straight up rip-off of Guardians of the Galaxy, which it kind of ended up being, but I didn't mind that it was following in the footsteps. I didn't mind that it looked like it was following the footsteps of Guardians of the Galaxy, and maybe taking some ideas of that, but doing a Guardians of the Galaxy type story in another format, if you follow me. In another world with some different characters, in a non-superhero setting. So, with all that, I went to go and see the movie. Yes, I went to go and see the movie despite the terrible, because it has been receiving terrible reviews. But I've been doing this thing recently where I've tried to step away from reading reviews, step away from reading or watching people reviewing movies, and take a film at face value. Just try and, have my own take on it without without anybody else's take. What am I trying to say? Without anybody else's take overshadowing mine, if you follow me. So I knew it had terrible reviews, but I still went to go and see it anyway, because I thought it could have been a bit of fun. And after seeing the movie a couple of days ago now, here are my thoughts on it. Here are my thoughts on Borderlands. Honestly, I thought this movie was horrifically bad. This is one of the worst films of the year. It's just plain awful to watch. It has two redeeming features in my opinion. Cate Blanchett, I liked her in the lead role as Lilith. I think that's what the character is called. I thought she was awesome in the film, and she seemed like she was having fun, and she was trying her best. I do feel she was, I don't want to say miscast, but I do wonder what somebody else would have been like in the role if a younger person was taking on the role. And I'm not trying to diss Cate Blanchett at all. I love Cate Blanchett. She's one of my favourite actresses. And she still looks absolutely phenomenal for the age she's at. And I totally bought her into doing all these action sequences in the movie, into doing all these fight sequences. But at the same time, I do wonder if someone else who was perhaps younger, what they would have made of the role. But I still thought Cate Blanchett was one of the redeeming features in this movie. And the end credits played a song by the Black Keys, which I thought was kind of catchy. I forgot the name of the song right now off the top of my head, but I thought that song was, kind of catchy. That's pretty much it. I really struggled with this movie. I cannot think of any more redeeming features. Genuinely, I am struggling to think of anything else that I liked from this film, because the film does absolutely nothing to get you interested, to get you invested into the narrative and into the characters. It opens up with 5 minutes of, it felt like it was more than 5 minutes, but the film opens up with 5 minutes of badly written and tiredly told exposition, and then it sets you into this repulsive setting, and the aesthetic of the film is so horrible to sit through. The whole film is repulsive to look at. I have heard some people saying, "Oh, the production quality of the movie is not too bad," and I see what they're going for, and it does look like the same sort of aesthetic from the Borderlands video games. I don't care. I haven't played a Borderlands video game. I don't care what the aesthetic of the Borderlands video game was and how close the film is to the Borderlands video games. I don't care about how close it may look. Films shouldn't feel repulsive to look at, and films shouldn't feel horrible to sit through. The longer this film went, and the more this film progressed, the more I felt so annoyed at myself that I was watching this in the cinema. I felt so... I just felt... the film made me feel so disgusting because of the way it looked. It looks horrible. And the entire cast feel like they're in different movies. You know, Cate Blanchett, who I said before, I found to be one of the only redeeming features from this movie, feels like she gets it. Feels like she gets what sort of movie she is in. Everybody else is miscast, and I find that painful to say because I like most of the cast in this movie and I want to see them in good things. I might not love Kevin Hart as an actor, but I want to see him in good things. But he is so miscast in this movie because he's a comedy actor. That's what he's best doing. I might not love him as an actor, as I keep saying, but at the same time, I have seen him do comedy in the past, and he's been quite funny. I remember seeing him on the Graham Norton show alongside Will Smith and Octavia Spencer, and he was really funny on the Graham Norton show. That's probably the only good thing I remember being on, or in, whatever you want to say. But at the same time, I have seen Kevin Hart be funny in the past, but he's not given any comedic lines in this movie. At least he felt like he was giving no comedic lines, because also what makes comedy so funny is the delivery. And every line in this film he says like he is bored, and he is given the role of a serious soldier. He's not given anything really that fun to do, and he doesn't seem like he's having fun making this movie, and he was miscast. I think if you had somebody who perhaps wasn't a comedic actor in that role, it might have worked better. But I did not feel Kevin Hart fit the role he was playing. And Jamie Lee Curtis, who I think is an absolute treasure. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. is also miscast. I don't know what Jamie Lee Curtis is doing in this movie. Most of the time, she looks confused why she's there, and I'm confused why she's there as well. Like I said before, like I alluded to early on in this review, I wonder if she would have done this film. I said I wonder if this one of the Academy Award nominated actors were in this movie. I wonder if they would have done the movie if they hadn't already won the Academy Award. And the person I was talking about was Jamie Lee Curtis, because I genuinely don't think, and I might be wrong here, maybe I'm out of step, maybe I'm completely and utterly wrong, but I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis would have done this movie if she had already won her Academy Award. But she did this movie before she won an Academy Award, and I just don't know what she's doing in this film. I don't know what she's doing there on screen. I don't know what performance is, because I was watching on screen like, this is what you're giving Jamie Lee Curtis to do? Like, there's nothing there. There's nothing to the character. She just looks confused throughout most of the film. And Ariana Greenblatt, who I really enjoyed in Barbie, and I think has got a wonderful career ahead of her, feels like she's in a completely different film. And Jack Black, listen, I bloody love Jack Black. You know, I love him to pieces. I've loved him ever since I saw him in Peter Jackson's King Kong, which is my favourite version of King Kong, and I think he's spectacular in it, and I love him in School of Rock as well, and I've seen him in many other movies, but those are the ones which come to mind. I also loved him in High Fidelity. I love Jack Black, is the point I'm making. But he was so annoying as the robot in this film. So annoying. Every single time he came on screen, I felt like my ears were bleeding. Oh my god. Talk about having an annoying robot in your film. He's so annoying. And as soon as he came on screen, I was like, oh, Jack Black's not going to do that throughout the rest of the movie, and he did. He comes on screen like within the first 15 minutes, and I was like, oh god, I'm going to have to put another hour and 45 minutes of this. And that's another thing. I don't even know how long this film is. I don't know. But it feels way too long. This should have been so much shorter. And as I spoke about before, you know, the film had extensive reshoots which were done by Tim Miller, because Eli Roth, who originally shot the movie all the way back in 2021, was working on his next film, Thanksgiving, so he couldn't be there during the reshoot. So Tim Miller stepped in to do extensive reshoots on this film. And you can tell there have been too many cooks in the kitchen with this movie. There's no direction to it. It feels like a studio produced film, and it feels like way too many people meddled with it and tried to make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. This film straight up feels like a Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff, and that annoyed me. That rubbed me the wrong way, because I love the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. I didn't love Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but overall, that trilogy I thought was brilliant, and the best thing Marvel has ever done, in my opinion. So when you see a movie that tries to copy it, but does it so badly, it infuriates me, because I'm like, Guardians of the Galaxy already did this. They already did the fun, the group of characters who are unlikable, who come together and then become this family, become this found family, and are often irritating to watch but also lovable to watch. They already did this idea so much better than this film is doing, because each character, as what he said, each actor in this film is miscast, whereas each actor in the Guardians of the Galaxy films is perfectly cast, in my opinion. And at the same time, each character in Borderlands is not that fun to watch, apart from Cate Blanchett. But I think she's only fun to watch because it's Cate Blanchett. If it was anyone else, you know, I said before, maybe someone else who was younger would fit in that role better. Actually, now that I think about it more, perhaps not, because I think Cate Blanchett, like I said, is probably the only redeeming feature in this movie. But going back into what I was saying, most of the characters in this movie are unlikable, but all the characters in the Guardians of the Galaxy films are lovable. All the characters become part of the Guardians of the Galaxy team are lovable, but you don't get that from this film. And also in Guardians of the Galaxy, God, I don't want to do my hands right now. Guardians of the Galaxy, you have this direction, this style, this James Gunn feel to those movies because they're directed by James Gunn. And I was thinking Eli Roth would have some sort of style to this movie. Boy, was I wrong. This film has no style or anything to it. It feels completely empty. Each Guardian of the Galaxy film has so much to it. It has so much substance to it. Whilst this film is like, oh, look at the cool action sequences. Look at the weird and post-apocalyptic setting we're in. Oh, look, we got these cast of characters together. But there's nothing to it. There's no substance to this movie. And it wants to be Guardians of the Galaxy. Also, because it's using all these needle drops of famous songs throughout the film, like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies did. However, it worked in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie because they had an emotional thrust to using those needle drops. You were hooked on a feeling, or I Want You Back, or any of the songs were used in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. You know, Father and Son by Cat Stevens in the second film, and Creep by Radiohead in the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It made sense because there was an emotional connection to why that song was playing. In the first film, Star-Lord is gifted this what's it called? Oh, I can't think of the name of it on the right off the top of my head. This Walkman, I think that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called, by his dying mother. And then in the second film, a lot of the songs relate to Star-Lord's relationship with his father, who's trying to kill him. And in the third film, a lot of the songs relate to Rocket's storyline and him trying to deal with his past. And all those songs that are used in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, maybe not all of them actually, but most of them have an emotional importance in there, if you get me. There's a reason why each song, there's a reason why each needle drop is used in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and also it makes sense why there would be a Walkman, why these famous songs would be playing in the Guardians of the Galaxy world, because, you know, Star-Lord took his Walkman with him when he was abducted by aliens in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But when you get needle drops in Borderlands, it makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. And I thought they were going to tie it to the narrative, but no, it's just an excuse to play a famous song in this scene. And there's quite a few moments like that where I'm thinking, oh, really? Why are you doing this? Why are you using this song? And that sounds like a small thing, but for me, music is a big thing. It's a big thing when it comes to films. And the music choice in this movie were puzzling to they puzzled me why they were used. Let's just say that. To put it lightly, to put it friendly, let's just say they puzzled me, you know? Didn't get the point of them. I didn't get what they're trying to do. I know I do get what they're trying to do. They're just trying to make their own Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And sticking on with the music, the musical score for Borderlands is awful. It sounds like some studio executives locked a rock band, a bad rock band at that, in a recording booth together and went, guys, make some music and we're going to record it and we're going to use it as the score to this movie. I don't know what the score to this film was at all. I can't believe people sat around, studio executives, filmmakers, and, you know, all the crew that worked on this movie sat around and okayed so much from this film. I just don't get it, because there are so many tropes that I've seen in other movies done so much better that you see done done so poorly in this film. Like this film relies on so many of those movie tropes you've seen done time and time again. And I'm not gonna go into spoilers on what those movie tropes are, but if you watch the film, and by the way, you shouldn't, but if you watch the film, you'll see what I'm going on about. Literally every scene felt like, oh yeah, this is a movie trope I've already seen done countless times. This feels like a tired movie trope, but we're doing it. Why? I don't get who thought that repeating all these tired and old movie tropes that we've seen done time and time again in this movie was a good idea. And I'm surprised. I'm shocked. should I say, that Lucasfilm hasn't sued this movie for plagiarism. Because there's one scene in this film, not going too many spoilers, I'm not giving anything big away, but there's one scene in the film which is directly copied from one of the most emotional scenes in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I was watching the scene going, oh my god, they just went straight up, remember that scene in Rogue One? Yeah, we're going to copy it here. Why? Because why not? And somehow in the third act of the film as well, somehow in the big finale, it becomes this superhero movie all of a sudden. And I'm sitting there going, what is this film? I don't have a clue what it is. I don't have a clue what the purpose of the film is. And it's making me feel horrible. I left the cinema after seeing Borderlands yesterday, or the other day actually, feeling disgusting. I left feeling filthy. And I never want to feel like that coming out of the cinema. I went into the cinema hoping for the best. Genuinely. I'm not being facetious there. I went into the cinema hoping for the best. But about 10 minutes and I was thinking, what the hell am I doing? Because this film was so repulsive just to look at. It felt like he used the same set 10 times, and there was so many moments where I was like, who thought this was a good idea? Like, at what point did studio executives sit round and were watching the dailies from this film, watching all the footage that was shot from this movie, and went, you know what? That's working. That's working. That's working. And I can hear somebody saying now, somebody watching this review going, but Spike, clearly they didn't because they reshot a lot of the movie. But I don't even understand then, when they were doing the reshoots, what executives were thinking. Why so much money was thrown at this film. Because usually when when extensive reshoots happen on a movie, it's because the studio thinks they can save it. And maybe they thought they can save this film. Perhaps. But clearly they couldn't. Clearly they couldn't. I'm not sure why it exists. And it's a wannabe Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff. It's horrible to watch. And you know what the thing is? I don't even hate it. I don't hate it because I think in order to hate something, in order to hate a film, you have to have some emotional investment in it to begin with. Like, for instance, I hate Jurassic World Dominion because I had something invested in the Jurassic Park / Jurassic World franchise. But I had nothing invested in Borderlands. So I didn't hate the film overall. I hated how it was trying to be like Guardians of the Galaxy, but I didn't hate the film. I just really disliked watching it, I just thought it was a plain terrible film. And I will probably never ever rewatch it. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Borderlands, I'm going to say it's a 2 out of 10. Again, there are 2 redeeming features from this film, Kate Blanchett and a song I hadn't heard before that was used in the end credits of the movie. I was thinking, you know what, that wasn't too bad. And if I was to really think about it, I suppose some of these shots in the movie, you can kind of tell what they're going for, what the filmmakers were going for. But I'm being kind there, because like I mentioned, most of the film was visually repulsive. I don't think I've ever said that about a movie before. It was a struggle to get through, really. And I found this out not long before I did this review today, that apparently Craig Mazin, who was the showrunner on The Last of Us, this one very successful video game adaptation, but a very successful video game adaptation, was originally the writer for this movie, but once the reshoots were taking place, he fought to take his name off this movie. But I don't think that ended up happening, by the way. I think his name is still credited on the final cut of this film. That's my computer trying to speak to me there. I think his name is still credited on the final cut of this movie, but I do find it funny that he was trying to get his name taken off the film. And I can completely understand why. Imagine being Craig Mazin writing Chernobyl, the Chernobyl TV series, Last of Us, and having this on your resume after Last of Us. It wouldn't look good. I wonder what the Craig Mazin version of this film looked like. I wonder what the Eli Roth version of this film looked like. Because I genuinely don't think we got it. I think we got the studio version. I think we got the Tim Miller version. And I don't think Tim Miller's a good director. I didn't like the first Deadpool and I didn't like Terminator Dark Fate. And I think this is more of a Tim Miller film. I think you could put a strong argument this is more of a Tim Miller film than anything else. And I mean that in the worst way possible. I did not like this movie. I really didn't like it. Because it was just horrible to watch. Horrible to look at. I never got into it, so I don't think I can hate it. But I thought it was horrifically bad. An horrifically bad Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff. With a cast that is mostly miscast. And with a film that, you know, had me questioning the entire time during my film watching experience why it exists. And I've seen the film now. I've seen all 2 hours of it. I'm guessing it's 2 hours. It felt like the longest 2 hours of my life, but I'm guessing it's 2 hours. I've seen all 2 hours of it. And I still don't know why it exists. It's awful. And so, all in all, as I've already said, and as I'm going to say once more in this podcast today, Borderlands was not for me, and that's why I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen Borderlands and you enjoyed it, that's great. I really don't want to take anything away from you. And, you know, if you did enjoy it and you disagreed with everything I said, that's awesome. And please let me know why I'm wrong in the comment section below. Or maybe you watched it and you felt similar to me. And maybe you didn't think it was too bad. Whatever your thoughts are on Borderlands, please let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast. And look forward to many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you as always for watching or listening to this podcast. And I suppose this is it. So I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.